That'll be the last one.
Yesterday in Landover, Maryland, Navy defeated Army in their annual football rivalry. Among those in the stands, President-elect Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and Elon Musk. Also looking on, Secretary of Defense and West Point graduate Lloyd Austin. This morning, he looks back with our David Martin.
Lloyd Austin, the nation's first African-American Secretary of Defense, returns to West Point, the institution that forever changed his life.
You know, when I first came to West Point, I'd never been north of Georgia.
Speaking to the Corps of Cadets, Austin told the next generation of Army officers what it means to lead in combat.
Artillery was exploding all around us. The troops in the TOC were watching me intently, waiting to hear what I had to say. And at that moment, I realized that they would follow me through fire if they trusted that I knew the way forward.
When the U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003, Austin was giving the orders for the lead Army division.
I was calling the shots in terms of where brigades were moving, and so I needed to be right up at the front of the formation.
He ordered what became known as the Thunder Run into the heart of Baghdad. Were those your tanks?
They were. I was right behind that brigade.
And then it turns into a long, hard slog.
It did.
How many times did you have to go back to Iraq?
I went back 2 more times, 2 long tours.
That's how he met then Vice President Joe Biden, who was the Obama administration's point man for Iraq.
I would be with him as he visited our troops, but he'd also ask for my thoughts, my opinion.
When Joe Biden was elected president, did you expect to become Secretary of Defense?
I did not, and matter of fact, that was the furthest thing from my mind.
Do you like being Secretary of Defense?
I love my job.
The job consists of nonstop closed-door meetings with senior officials both in the Pentagon and around the world by teleconference. This one on Ukraine.
It's been very helpful in terms of making sure that everybody's kind of rowing in the same direction.
And constant travel, circling the globe, visiting allies and troops. Despite his high-profile job, he is a reluctant public figure.
It's my personality. You know, I don't make excuses for that, but I don't think being a private person is necessarily a bad thing.
Do you think it had anything to do with being a black officer in a white-dominated institution?
It does.
It got him in trouble when he tried to keep his prostate cancer secret, even from the president.
I should have informed my boss. I did not. That was a mistake.
Your punishment for being such a private person was to have to stand up in the Pentagon briefing room and talk for an hour about your prostate. How is your health?
I'm cancer-free. I thank God for that. You've been with me all day, David, so I should ask you how my health is.
His knees have seen a few too many parachute jumps. But back at West Point, nearly 50 years after he graduated, he seems to be basking in the limelight. Although he's sharing it with the Army football team, having one of its best seasons ever. At West Point, football is not just a sport. It's preparation for battle.
They're just tough and rugged and play together, and that's who we got to be. It's got to be teamwork. That's the lessons they take from this place into the Army.
Because that's how you're going to fight.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
you're not going to win a war by yourself.
No.
Coach Jeff Monken has turned Army football around.
So if he's the Secretary of Defense, what are you, the Secretary of Offense?
No, just ask my wife. I'm just defensive.
Army was undefeated until they ran into Notre Dame.
Love to the end zone.
And lost by 5 touchdowns.
Notre Dame touchdown.
I should tell you something about him. His first choice was Notre Dame.
I had applied there first, got accepted, had a scholarship, and then I got accepted at West Point. My father brought me in and said, hey, if you go to Notre Dame, it's still going to cost me money. If you go to this school, it's a great education, and they pay you to go there. His logic
persuaded you.
If he showed up as a walk-on, where would you put him?
Tight end or defensive end, for sure.
If you need a guy who's slow and has stone hands, I'm your guy. You know?
You know, His nickname in high school was Blade.
This has a story.
How'd you earn that?
Well, I was a very thin, kind of wiry young man. I said, Coach, put me in. And he said, son, they're going to mow you down like a blade of grass.
Austin ended up as captain of his high school basketball team in Georgia.
Was that an integrated school?
It was, and I was one of the people that helped to integrate it. I was one of the first students there. Right.
What was that like?
Tough.
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Over and over, Austin has broken through as the first African American.
A mentor of yours told us, you said to him, I can't fail.
I've been in that can't fail position a lot. The first African American to be the vice chief of the Army. The first African American to command a division in combat. The first African American to command an entire theater of war.
He is Exhibit A for anyone who believes the military is a true meritocracy where you are judged by what you do, not what you look like. But he has been depicted by right-wing firebrands as the leader of a woke military which promotes minorities at the expense of warfighting.
So while everyone else in the world seems to be developing capabilities and being more strategic, we got time to embrace critical race theory at West Point.
The fact that you're embarrassed by your country? By
Oh, no. I'm embarrassed by your leadership.
I'm sorry for
I am
that.
not embarrassed for my country. The Biden administration is trying to destroy our military by force-feeding it wokeism.
Why is it that presses your button and all the other criticism just rolls off?
I fought alongside these troops. This is a lethal professional warfighting machine.
A machine he drove to Baghdad with battlefield daring critics say has been lost as America became mired in never-ending wars, culminating in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Ramming stuff into the Pentagon that has nothing to do with winning wars. What is your gender? What is your race?
Pete Hegseth is Donald Trump's pick to be the next Secretary of Defense.
The Pentagon likes to say, our diversity is our strength. What a bunch of garbage.
One of the criticisms being leveled is the drive to include women in all the combat arms has led to a weaker military.
I absolutely disagree. I've seen women in combat. I don't have to guess at this.
Women were part of his command team during the Iraqi invasion.
I said, if any of you feel that you don't want to be up there at the front of the fight, say so now. I won't think any less of you. One of the women piped up and said, so what are you talking about? And what they were telling me was, quit talking, let's get to the fight.
One woman eager to get to the fight is First Captain Caroline Robinson, the top cadet in the class of 2025.
The first captain room.
50 years after Austin graduated.
Were women here when you were here?
No, women were not here when I was here. And I think because of that, we probably missed a pretty significant part of the population.
As the top cadet, Robinson can have her pick of any branch in the Army.
So right now, field artillery is my #1 branch choice.
This is the night the cadets of 2025, 1/4 of them women and 10% African American, find out where they will serve.
Good luck. You may open your envelope.
Their future is in those envelopes. 50 years ago, there was no such thing as a female artillery officer or a black Secretary of Defense.
It is 2024. And any military that turns away tough, talented patriots, women or men, is just making itself weaker and smaller. So enough already.